What's going on, security ninjas? Samuel here, and I like to hack things. Today we're going to learn about network enumeration, or rather how to scan and find hosts on a network when you don't have any tools. Basically, we're going to use living off the land techniques or commands that are native to the Windows system in order to find hosts and enumerate the hosts we already landed on. The questions we're going to attempt to answer are: should you start sending out ping requests immediately? How can we look for known devices? Does this system have any listening ports or active connections? What processes or services are utilizing the ports and the connection? How can we find out the state of the firewall? How can we enumerate the network? Alright, let's get to it. Alright, so the first question: should you start sending out ping requests immediately once you make it onto a target system? After, of course, you've compromised it. Well, to be honest, that's probably not a good idea to go ahead and start telling the target organization where you're coming from or where you've landed, because pings can actually be pretty loud on a network if you don't configure them correct. Later in the video, I'll give you a good tip on how to use ping in a very silent manner, and it will allow you to enumerate the entire subnet as well. The second question we're going to ask is, how can we look for known devices? What we're going to do is use this very simple command that's included with nearly every installation of Windows. So utilizing arptac-a, it'll give us a list of cached addresses and physical addresses or MAC addresses that this system knows about. This can come in handy when you're attempting to enumerate the other hosts on the network. Next, we're going to find out if this system has any listening or active connections. So we can do this using a very simple command, and that command is netstat. And more specifically, netstat-tac-a. Depending on your system, it may be fast or slow. But what this is going to do is show us the ports that our system is listening on for connections from other devices like 3389, which is the RDP port, or if we're connected to other things, like my other computer. You can also use netstat-tac-an. And then what this will do is display it in a numerical format in addition to showing you the active and listening connections. As you can see, now we just see an IP address instead of the physical or the name of my host system. Next, we're going to find out what processes or services are actually utilizing these connections. This is a key phase when enumerating a host and attempting to pivot from there on out. We're going to use the netstat-tac-an bo command. What this is going to do is add to what we've already done with the tac-an, as in displaying active and listening connections in numerical format. Next, with the B and O option, this is going to show us the PID and potentially the service and executable that are utilizing these connections. So let's see what we have. All right, you can see it produces quite a bit of information. So let's go ahead and try that again. This time we're going to pipe it to the more command, which will only display it a page at a time. So you can see from the very beginning, we have our local address, what we're listening on, foreign address that we're connected to. So let's go down a little bit further. Here we go. Here's one. So you can see there's various executables or processes utilizing these connections or listening ports. After you've compromised a host, you need to find out what's connecting to this device. And maybe you can use that to pivot to another machine or find out more information about how the network actually works. After we found out what's utilizing the connections on this device or what ports are open and it's listening on, we should probably take a dive into some simple information about the firewall. Basically, we're going to look at the profiles and how they vary between local and domain level. We can do this using the netsh command. The netsh is basically a terminal inside the terminal and has a specific set of commands, but you can run it this way. We're going to use netsh adv firewall and then show all profiles. Let's try piping that to more to make it a little bit more presentable. Okay, so you can see we have the domain profile settings. So if there was a GPO or group policy object setting the domain policies for your local firewall, you would see it probably in here. And then of course we have the private profile settings. That's what's local to this machine. And you can actually see where the file name is located at, which is really interesting. You may be thinking, why do I even need to know this information? I'm already on the box. Well, to be honest, the firewall may be restricting connections to other workstations or other devices on the network. So we need to get a lay of the land and find out what we can actually do with this information. Can we kind of use it to our advantage to find out open ports or policies that are allowed, etc. For the last and final command, we want to figure out how to enumerate a network without drawing too much suspicion or getting our activity noticed at a massive scale. So we could probably ping each host one at a time using the tack-in and tack-l command. What those do is limit the number of packets or ping requests you're sending, and the L command will limit the number of bytes you're sending. So you could do that one by one, but that would take quite a bit. Or you could just use a simple for loop as we have here. What this for loop is going to do is it's going to iterate from 1 to 255 one at a time. It would help if I had the command actually correct in here. Okay, that's much better. You do need the IP address that you're attempting to scan, so please keep that in mind. Depending on your network and how many hosts are on your system and the latency, etc., this could take a while, which is good for an attacker, right? Because you don't want it to be loud and proud, really. You don't want the adversary, by the adversary I mean the defender, to know where you're at. So if you're sending a small amount of data every few seconds, you probably won't get noticed. Because to be honest, most defenders aren't looking for that information unless they have a particular indicator of compromise that is saying, hey, go look at this particular ping request across the network. Okay, wow, that took about 10 minutes for mine to complete. Yours may vary, of course. This is going to depend on the system, the hardware, the network latency, how the network responds to ping requests, if it's even allowed to traverse the network. So as you can see, this is a very stealthy way to enumerate the network or the subnet that your box is on. So keep in mind that you can do this with various subnets. You can nest for loops to attempt to hit a bigger range or a /16. I wouldn't recommend doing that because that would literally take forever doing this method because of how slow it is. But as you can see, it actually works, and this can provide more targets for us to attempt to pivot to and enumerate. So something I always like to say is Abe, always be enumerating. So that means you should always be enumerating the network, the host, etc. This skill or this methodology will come in handy, trust me. It has helped me so much in the past when identifying targets. All right, security ninjas, that was freaking awesome. Good job, guys. Please test these commands out and this will help you learn the lay of the land using living off the land techniques, using only what's available on that host. Sure, we could get more granular and dig into domain level commands, but I really want you to figure that out on your own. I can make a video on that too, of course, later on, but I really think you should explore that option on your own. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.